Comedian turned director Jordan Peele has up to this point in time released 3 feature-length horror movies: Get Out, Us and Nope. Get Out is a horror conspiracy movie where a person gets inadvertently wrapped up in a sinister cult plot. Us is a psychological horror about the importance of trust and family. And Nope has a much larger scope than any of his previous films, and is a cautionary tale of human nature and unyielding personal beliefs. Despite what the common public consensus seems to be about this film, I will always say that out of the 3, Nope is my favourite. Director Ari Aster has up to this point in time released 3 feature-length horror movies. He also did this Beau is Afraid movie, but it's no horror so it doesn't count. Hereditary, Midsummer and now Eddington. Midsummer is a horror conspiracy movie where a person inadvertently gets wrapped up in a sinister cult plot. Hereditary is a psychological horror about the importance of trust and family. And when I saw the trailer for Eddington, I was positive this would be Aster's Nope. A larger scope, larger casts, bigger stakes, a whole town falling into chaos because of toxic beliefs and master manipulators. I know I've made kind of sweeping comparisons between these films, but I'm trying to illustrate how my fucking film bro Heed absorbs the Eddington trailer. I saw the patterns between Aster and Peele in my brain, and I convinced myself that Eddington was going to be Aster's Nope, and that I was going to love it just as much for similar reasons. The trailer hooked me so much that I started to make comparisons to one of my favourite TV programmes in the last few years, Midnight Mass. Now, I don't really want to go into detail about why I was comparing these two, because Midnight Mass is one of those mystery shows that's very easy to spoil by just talking about it. But know this, it's about a small isolated town that's manipulated by a charismatic leader into chaos. This is what I expected from Eddington going in. That trailer in particular sold me an ideological war between Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix's characters. And I'd say for the first quarter of the movie, that's what I received. But as I sat in the theatre, my perspective on the movie shifted. I realised I wasn't watching Ari Aster's Midnight Mass, and I wasn't watching Ari Aster's Nope. I was watching something different altogether. My film bro brain was desperately trying to grasp at straws. I needed a comparison movie. I needed a movie that depicted an individual's fall into madness before I fell into my fucking own. In my desperation, I floundered on the old reliable film bro go-to, Taxi Driver. And for a while, this interpretation satisfied me. I saw Joaquin Phoenix's character slowly become more violent and radical in his beliefs. Maybe that was because of his famous portrayal of the Joker. I was thinking about Taxi Driver, thinking about that. But Eddington seemed to be going down a similar path. Much like Taxi Driver, I was expecting it to end in a questionable main characters off the fucking deep end scenario, much like Taxi Driver does, where the audience can't tell how much of the original Travis is left in the Mohican sport and vigilante we see him as at the end. But when Eddington ended, I didn't have that realisation, nor did I have that aha moment where every theme Aster was trying to convey perfectly fit into place. I got in the car outside the pictures when the film ended, and the first thing I googled was, has Ari Aster joined the fucking Daily Wire? I genuinely couldn't tell when I left the movie, and I was just concerned that instead of watching an actual film with themes and ideas, I just watched a 2-hour Daily Wire circle jerk where this anti-woke shite fucking infected the script at Eddington. The movie I was comparing Eddington to on the drive home was the intricate psychological horror Ladyballers. That is really as much as I'm going to be able to say without spoilers, so I'd recommend seeing the film past this point. Although I'm pretty lukewarm on the film overall, I still think there's a lot to discuss and debate in Eddington. So stick around if you want to, but again, I'm going into heavy spoilers. I'm going to be spoiling the whole film. I'm just going to be going straight into what I didn't like. The main things I didn't like about this film are to do with the ending. So I am going to be just laying it out and spoiling the whole fucking thing. So you've been warned. Now, the last thing I fucking wanted to do with this movie channel is to talk about fucking politics. But here we are in episode 1, and I've got Eddington twisting my arm. Listen, I'm a young Scottish lad living it up in the bonny Highlands, and Scotland overall is quite a liberal voting country, contrary to what some other Scots online might have you believe. Oh god. I just realised I'm a Scottish fucker on the internet talking about film analysis and that. I'm destined to be compared to this lad for the rest of the time. Here's me thinking I'm trying to be the Scottish Highlander fucking Mr. Plinkett, but I'm just woke critical drinker. Well, I guess you decide. In short, during the pandemic at least, in my neck of the woods, people tended to be considerate and caring for their community. This goes quadruply so for the wee towns and villages. In my experience, those small town folk were proud of the fact that they were making a small personal sacrifice for the benefit of their wee town. Now you can show me whatever graphs and data you have that show maths don't work or whatever the fuck. But the fact of the matter is, most folk I know around here, even younger lads, were happy to put on a wee bit of fabric on their face to protect vulnerable people in their community as best they could. This whole my face, my freedom, I'm not wearing a mask because I've got rights, all this pish, it never really hit here, not till long after the pandemic, and then I saw folk out in America kicking off about it. I thought at least that these people were in the minority and that no film would be made explicitly to pander to these people. I'm clearly fucking wrong. Eddington is a movie set in 2020, very explicitly set in 2020. The film is one of the very few I've seen to make use of the actual COVID-19 pandemic to tell its story. I liked this idea at the start, but by the end, I wish it had been some made up virus and not one we'd actually lived through, because the film falls into this classic false equivalency trap almost every time it tries to comment on the paranoia at the time. Joaquin Phoenix's character, the Sheriff of Eddington, orders a store clerk to allow an elderly gentleman without a mask to enter the store, even though it's against the rules at the time. We see him give a rousing speech outside about personal freedom and liberty and America and life, inspiring another storegoer to remove his mask in defiance. Then when he enters the store, we're introduced to Pedro Pascal's character, easily for me the most confused character in the whole film, half the time being a reasonable, warm and responsible character, quickly transitioning into the Silicon Valley evil, liberal, soy CEO type. Now I'm going to come back to his character later because I've got a lot to talk about, but he approaches the sheriff in the store and he lectures him about the importance of wearing a mask, yada yada, and the whole exchange here felt to me just like a dog whistle. It's like illustrating that Pedro Pascal's character is somehow stupid, less considerate and evil compared to Phoenix's character. And this is exasperated tenfold when the elderly gentleman from before is forcibly removed from the store to acquire a robotic applause from the rest of the mask-wearing drones in the store. Now, I'm not a stupid head. I know about the subtext and the theming and them subverting expectations and all that. But this scene, it just really rubbed me the wrong way, and it really felt like a scene that the boys over at the Daily Wire, Big Ben Shappy and Jeremy Boren, would put together. That's what I mean by dog whistle. I can't really explain why we're just having the script in front of me and putting red X's through it. In this scene, the least considerate member of the community is the sheriff himself. That's just a fact. These people wearing masks are listening to their community's needs, and they're wearing an inconvenient face covering for the protection of others. They have more thought and care for their neighbour than somebody who storms in without a mask and starts ranting about their own personal liberty and connection. And I really thought at some point there'd be a reveal like that. I really thought the film was on the same page with me, that it was supposed to be ironic, but the film seems to revel in the counter-argument, and that's what I mean by the false equivalency. It's not really based in reality, it's giving spotlights and a hero status to people who call out reality. Let's get to Pedro Pascal's character. Pascal especially starts as a great counter to the cynicism and conspiracy found in Phoenix, to the point where at the beginning I thought Pascal's character would be a sort of shadow protagonist, the actual hero of the story, keeping the town together behind the scenes while Phoenix falls into conspiratorial madness. The opening scene in the village bar seems to imply this, as Phoenix is completely confrontational and unreasonable with Pascal's character. He's simply asking for the sheriff to help with an aggressive client, and the sheriff refuses and mocks him. I didn't think in that scene that the sheriff was a good character or making a good choice. why else am I supposed to see that scene and not think that Joaquin Phoenix's sheriff character, Joe Cross, is a big wankstain? I just don't know how else I'm supposed to take that scene. And as the film continues, Pascal becomes increasingly evil, and it's just revealed he's some billionaire evil man, and with at one point Pascal explicitly asking for somebody to die.
Can we shut this bitch up?
After a particularly challenging Zoom call about his new plant or whatever, it's like an AI solar thing he's doing, something liberal. He straight up asks one of his goons or advisors that sat there, he says, "Can we shut her up?"
Can we shut this bitch up?
Implying that this small town liberal mayor has the resources to assassinate his political rivals. And his character arc in particular, right, he was the reason I was convinced that Ari Aster had been dragged into this Daily Wire cesspit, because he just feels totally like a caricature. It was like that classic paradox: these left-wing politicians are weak, pathetic soy boys who can't understand or run anything, but at the same time a multifaceted shadow government with total control over every aspect of life and death of the populace. His character was just totally inconsistent, with no degrees of irony to somehow draw any meaning other than, okay, he just is a total piece of shit, what's going on here? I'm going to transition to two characters I think actually work in the film, and I would have preferred more screen time for the both of them, I think. The characters played by Emma Stone and Austin Butler. The best scene in the film for me, and when I thought I understood what it was trying to do, was when we're introduced to the soothsayer, social media influencer character known as Vernon. He's played by Austin Butler. His character's like Russell Brand. I think that's what they're going for. He's a inspired faith healer. And in his first scene, he explains the abuse he experienced as a child after being trafficked by rich oligarchs, with Emma Stone's character Louise weeping and ranting about the injustice that he faced.
Evil.
Now obviously again, Aster is drawing even more political comparisons with the Epstein case and so on. And I thought I knew what this scene was trying to do. I thought that Phoenix, listening to this, would be convinced that Pascal's character was somehow involved in the child trafficking and he was going to swear his revenge no matter how misinformed he was. Now this kind of happens, but not really. The whole movie would have really worked for me if Phoenix started to buy in more to Butler's conspiracy and think of himself as a defender of children in peace by killing his rivals. And I thought the film was trying to show how a normal, warm, working man becomes a radical extremist with an agenda. But again, Phoenix's character doesn't necessarily believe in anything, or more accurately, his opinions and motivations are next to impossible to tie down or understand. Now this takes me to the film's fucking finale. Oh my god, the ending, man, of this film is just insanity. I've never seen anything like it. The sheriff takes it upon himself to eliminate the mayor and his son. Just to get you up to speed, he's assassinated the mayor and his son with a sniper rifle after suspecting all sorts of things. He's running against him for a campaign and he shoots him, but it's not really defined why. He thinks he abused Louise, but she said in a video online that he didn't. But he shoots him anyway. Again, I'm not really sure. I think it's because he's going off the rails. That's what I thought was going on. Like he's going crazy and he's just becoming homicidal. But the ending just seems to suggest otherwise. And let me explain how, right? After framing his fellow officer Michael, played by actor Michael Ward, the sheriff discovers that the holding cell he locked him in has been unlocked and that Michael's been set free. As an audience member, I think we're supposed to believe that the person who freed Michael is the Native American police officer character named Butterfly. At least this is what I thought while watching. I couldn't have been more wrong. The true culprit of Michael's release was actually Antifa in a crazy terrorist bombing in which they rig Michael to explode, and the officers can't come near him or else they'll explode. But also he can't speak, but also he does speak through his teeth anyway, and that's okay. And then there's a big boom, and no peace is spelled out in fire along the floor, and there's evil shadow men in the bushes, and Joaquin has to kill them and shoot them with guns at the evil Antifa shadow men. What was this move? This Antifa move was so bizarre and off-kilter that I genuinely thought we were going down an American psychopath. The scene following that bombing has, I shit you not, Phoenix walking around Eddington with a M60 machine gun, Rambo style, killing Antifa soldiers. It reminded me so much of that scene in American Psycho. You know what I'm talking about? When he's wandering through all those like identical hotels, and then he sees that guy, he shoots that like clerk for no reason, and then he like goes outside and he shoots the pistol at the police officers, and like the car explodes and it's like the pistol's turned into a grenade launcher and that, and he like looks at it and it's like, what the fuck's going on? And it's like it's all going off the rails. I thought that was what was happening, right? I thought that was kind of the idea. Not in this film though. In Eddington, as far as I can tell, this finale is played 100% serious. No degree of irony whatsoever. This 50-60-year-old county sheriff was actually Rambo fighting against the evil Antifa warriors the whole time. This bothers me. Do you want to know what Antifa are like in real life?
And try to frame it in a white supremacist dog whistly way, we will show up and not allow them to do that. We see through it. Anti-fascist action.
You know, I'm not against punching Nazis in the face. If you have hate in your heart, you deserve everything that comes to you.
So Phoenix's character is stabbed in the head by an Antifa soldier in just a really weird action scene where they both run out of ammo simultaneously. Again, did anyone feel like this scene was just like fucking weird? Like, they both run out of ammo simultaneously and he just like, I can't even explain it. He just like, the Antifa soldier just confidently runs into open fire without any ammo, and then realizes he doesn't have any ammo or something, but he like didn't fire anything before, as far as I can tell. Like he's like literally just an unnamed character, and he just charges the main character with a knife, and there's no like music, there's no tension. It's just like a really fucking weird moment. The whole fucking scene is weird, but that moment in particular, I was watching it like, did they fuck up? Is this a mistake? Like, I couldn't tell what the fuck was going on. Now, I need to explain to you how to fix this entire sequence later, but just like, it's so weird that it was played 100% straight, 100% serious. So strange. The soldier that stabs the sheriff is then shot to death by another minor character that I didn't mention yet. Now, he's not really worth going into, but he's like another Gone with the Wind stereotype liberal that changes his political view on a dime to get his whole. But he becomes like Andrew Tate or something in the end. Who cares? But he shoots the Antifa soldier and the sheriff actually survives the stabbing, but barely, being paralysed in the attack. The film ends with him in a wheelchair watching Emma Stone, who left him for Austin Butler, so I guess the true soy cuck was the sheriff all along? That's the message? It's generally just like Ari Aster wrote the beginning to a decent tense black comedy script about the tensions of social media during the pandemic, and then he couldn't think of an idea how to end it, so he fed the script to like Grok or some shit, and then it spat out some dumb action ending where everybody starts shooting each other with guns. Antifa were there, and BLM were there, and the Epstein clients were there, and the soy boy, liberal, AI, woke, social justice, politically correct, gone mad, cuck, deep state, liberal, chemtrail, Democrat, illegal aliens were there. So now, I'm going to give you the secret ingredient that would have made this film work. I gave you a wee hint earlier on with American Psycho, but here's my final rewrite of Eddington. So Aster, get that notepad out, and I better see you writing. Make the whole finale a hallucination. After the sheriff gets stabbed, the reveal should have been that all these crazy shadow Antifa soldiers were actually members of the Eddington community. Minor characters that we've seen throughout the whole film so far, like that blonde lady or the old refused to wear a mask guy from the store. He wasn't some vigilante defending the country from evil Antifa terrorists, that was only in his mind. He was in reality a mass shooter going on a killing spree because his mind had finally snapped, thanks to all that social media and societal pressure. To really hammer it home, I think, the stabber should have been revealed to be Pedro Pascal's character at the end. That Antifa soldier shouldn't have been some unnamed character. That would have given the whole film that American Psycho, this is not an exit ending, where you have no idea how much of it was real or how much came from a crazy, conspiratorial, unreliable narrator. Maybe Pascal being the stabber is a bit far, but I still think that whole ending, the whole crazy action scene with the guns, should have been some wild hallucination. As it stands, the sheriff ends on a heroic and vindicating note, I do think Astor genuinely wants the audience to sympathise with Phoenix's character in the end instead of vilifying him. I really wanted to add the sheriff to the list of you missed the point by idolising them starter pack, but I don't even know if they did miss the point by idolising him in this case. There really isn't a moment where we see how broken and incomprehensible the sheriff is as a character, how far he has fallen. Like Travis at the end of Taxi Driver, Bateman at the end of American Psycho, or even Alex in A Clockwork Orange. The characters like this, they have to have a moment where the audience goes, Jesus Christ, they've gone off the fucking rails. So they don't ever seem like they were right the whole time, or even close to any semblance of being justified or correct in their actions. And at the end of Eddington, that moment never came. I made many comparisons to other movies throughout this, but in the end, Eddington made me draw comparisons to the worst film of them all. Real life. I left the theatre thinking about fucking Kyle Rittenhouse in particular. The film kind of mimicked that event somewhat at the end, and it didn't really seem to actually comment on it, just glorifying it. I left thinking about politics and social media and AI, and I thought I'd come home. I don't think I got this movie. But honestly, please do let me know in the comments. Like, the one great thing I will say, I said it before, this film is ripe for discussion, so I do genuinely want to know what folk are thinking. So if you watched this video and you liked it, best thing you can do is give me your bloody opinion. I want to know what you thought about Eddington, so get back to me. Put a comment below, I will respond to it. See you next time.